Hello everyone. This presentation is on the 9 secrets of a strong, healthy immune system. It was delivered to the Indian School of Natural and Spiritual Sciences in January 2021. The first 4 minutes of screen shows Master Shashi Dubey, the founder of this school, before it reverts back to myself. I hope you find this presentation valuable and I trust you will enjoy. Namaste.
To speak. Christine, you are in driving seat for till you want.
Okay.
And when you say, Master, come, then I'll come. Because I want you to speak the need of the today. And then I'll speak need of the today and tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Please come.
Good morning, everyone. I'll start this presentation with Gong Ganapate Namaha, in the hope that everything flows with grace and ease. I was given a wisdom that if you attend a class or a teaching and that you get one gem of information, one nugget that can change or influence your life, then this is time well spent. So my wish today is that everyone get that nugget that can make an impact in a positive way in their life. So many years ago, I was given a system of numerology that was handed down from the Ascended Masters. And it was done in the form of a wheel of life. And it's a tool that has served me very well. And my intention is this morning to use this wheel of life as a map to speak about the 9 secrets of the immune system. And in doing that, we can break it down into our different aspects of life and into our different body systems. So if you imagine a wheel of life, a circle of life, and it moves from number 1 to number 9. The first one being the physical, the second one, the emotional, the third one, the mental body. Number 4 is causal. Number 5 is higher causal. Number 6 is responsibility and acquired wisdom. Number 7 is sensitivity. Number 8, like the figure of 8, is extreme, but then it comes back to center. And number 9 is bringing it back to source, bringing it home. So there's never been a more important time to share awareness on immunity and resistance. We've never been in such challenging times in that world. So I'll start off immediately. And number 1 on the wheel of life, on the numerology wheel of life, is the physical body. And the most important thing for your immune system within the physical is sleep. Now, Master Shashi is going to speak about setting the clock later, so I'm going to do a minimal presentation on this one. But there's been many studies showing how insomnia or not getting the correct sleep can seriously impact all our body systems, but particularly our immune system. Shift workers are a great example of this, and they say that shift workers, their immune system is depleted between 10 and 20%. 10 years of shift work is equivalent to 18 years work on the body systems. So that will show you how important sleep is. So in that way, it's important to have a good sleep hygiene. And that's, things like going to bed at the same time every night, not eating late at night, so that allows your digestive system to rest, not having alcohol late at night, which allows your liver to rest. close all devices before you go to sleep. So that will help your mental body to rest, but also more importantly, and not as well known, it helps your energetic body to rest. One of the big interesting knowings was that when the Russian athletes, after a performance, they would never meet the reporters. And it was because they knew the power of that they needed their rest before they would interact in case they would pick up something from the crowd. So they would always ensure that they had their rest first. So it's really important, correct sleep and good quality sleep for our immune system. Now, if you're not getting that, and again, if you wish with this I'm going to throw out occasionally remedies and ideas and suggestions. And so you're very welcome to take notes. So if you're not getting that rest, one of the most important things is the mineral magnesium. And most of us are magnesium deficient. So how you know you're magnesium deficient, one of the things would be not sleeping. Other things is restless legs at nighttime, cramp at nighttime. And taking magnesium, will help all of those. That's where the tradition is of having hot cocoa or a hot glass of milk at night time. It wasn't for the actual drinking of the milk. It was the magnesium that was in that drink that helped to calm and soothe and relax the body. So B vitamins, also very relevant for the central nervous system. And if you find that you're having disturbed sleep, then the B vitamins, the B complex, can be very beneficial. On the herbal end, valerian is probably the most well-known and wonderful herb if somebody has long-term issues with sleep, and can be very helpful. And again, it's non-addictive. It's not like using sleeping medication. There's no side effects with it, or your body doesn't become dependent on it. If you're not sleeping is connected with head chatter, the mind that won't be quiet, then the amino acid L-theanine is probably the most famous remedy. And then things like having chamomile tea, relaxing teas before bed, again, all help to create a good immune system on the physical level, because that's connected with sleep. Now that's the remedies. But as Monty Python famously said, we're all individuals. So sometimes none of those remedies are relevant for why we are not sleeping. Very early on in my career, I had a lady who came to me who hadn't slept in 8.5 years. She'd been using sleep medication and had used that for years and found that it had this doping effect on her through her day, and had a great struggle to come off sleeping medication, and came to me to try the herbals. And over time, we tried everything that I knew, and nothing had any effect. And then over the weeks, I got to know her and got chatting to her a little bit, or she shared a little bit more with me. And I was asking her, did anything happen 8.5 years ago, just before this sleeping problem started? And immediately the tear came into the eye. And she said, I found my husband dead. And I knew in that minute that that woman had gone into shock. Her body had never moved on from that moment. And the way her body, mind, spirit, soul was letting her know that she was in trouble, that she was in shock, was by affecting her sleep. So we then looked at Bach flower remedies and gave her remedies that were connected with shock and trauma. And a few weeks later, in she comes, and sleeping pattern returned. So even though I'm giving out in this presentation remedies, it's really, we all have to look at the holistic person and how best to support their immune system with what's going on in their life. Now, we're moving to number 2 on the numerology wheel of life. And number 2 is connected with the emotional body. And the obvious thing that affects the emotional body with regard to immunity is stress. And there are many, many studies that will show how stress affects all body systems, but particularly immunity. The sad thing is that stress robs you of your moment. It robs you of your joy. And so many people are suffering from stress and have actually no idea that that's what's going on with them. And when you begin a conversation and you ask if you're stressed, the first thing that they'll say is, no, I'm not stressed. And yet their body languaging and their verbal languaging will tell a very different story. Very often the shoulders are high and rounded. Maybe the voice is in high pitched. Maybe there's an impatience there. And you know that there's stress going on within the system. But these can be the hardest people to work with because they have separated themselves from their senses. The stress has become so normal that they no longer recognize it as being there. And this has a huge detrimental effect on our immune system. So they say that, and this is before COVID, that in the general population, over 33% of us suffer from stress. So you can imagine how common it is, but how, since COVID times, how that number has increased exponentially. So I thought in this part of the presentation for number 2, emotional body, that I would give you some symptoms of stress, just a few. And you can tick the boxes and see for yourself, do I fall into that category? Is stress having an impact on my immune system? So the first one obviously is irregular sleep or not getting to sleep. The next one is very interesting. It's skin conditions. Now there's been a great breakout of acne both in teenagers and in older people. And a lot of people are putting it down to wearing the masks and, you know, that irritation on the skin. But acne is one of the major factors to show that the body is under stress, as is psoriasis, eczema, dermatitis, nail biting, picking the skin. All of these skin conditions will let you know that the body's under stress. Headaches, chronic headaches. They say that 45% of people who suffer from chronic headache had some major stress event in their life that triggered that reaction. Most people understand that digestive issues are connected with stress. So heartburn, acidity, indigestion, irritable bowel. In children, it often very shows up as constipation or occasionally diarrhea. It's really interesting that when we're under stress, we're much more susceptible to upper respiratory infections, which is what COVID is. So when we look at what's happening in these times, we're being bombarded with stress. And this virus is feeding on that. So it's so important to have our stress levels in management for our immune system. Hair loss is a big one. People don't realize, it's actually one of the first things that we noticed with this, since this pandemic came in, how many people, both men and women, are suffering from hair loss. Extreme fatigue, another big symptom of stress. Pain in the body, floating aches and pains, pain in the, particularly neck and shoulders and back, are all stress symptoms. Frequent sickness, picking up everything that's going. Again, really showing you how stress impacts the immune system. A low window of tolerance. When you know that you're that bit edgy or snappy, it's a big sign of stress in the body. Rapid heartbeat, high blood pressure. And when the thermostat of the body goes out of alignment, that's a huge sign that the body's under stress. Sometimes when people are very stressed, they're cold all the time. When you touch them, they're cold. But more often, it's excessive sweating. The body, it's trying to release that tension out of the body. And it knocks the body thermostat out of alignment. Memory difficulties, huge sign of stress. An inability to concentrate or to remain present, again, a huge sign of stress. appetite changes. And this is really interesting during COVID times. Dennis was saying this morning or yesterday morning that we're, as a people, that we're putting on a lot of weight through the COVID times. And that's a stress factor. Sometimes when you're stressed, your appetite will go. And sometimes when you're stressed, you can't feed the body enough. And again, both signs of that system is out of alignment. Kidney infections. Again, one of the things that we're noticing most within work. And that's not surprising, you know, kidney and urinary tract infection, because the kidneys hold fear. And again, it's the body trying to process this bombardment of fear and anxiety. So that's a little list. So when you're taking it, just have a look and see, where do I stand in that? So that's the secret of number 2, is stress. Then we want to look at how do we balance that, or how do we remedy that? And really, in this, awareness is everything. That's why I was saying it's so hard to work with people who don't know that they're under stress. So the first thing I would say with that awareness is watch your thoughts. The brain is a big computer, so you have to be very mindful of what you're putting into your browser. And if you think most of us wake up in the morning and we're listening to news, perhaps as we're eating our breakfast, and the first thing we hear very often is these statistics of rises in infection, of death, of worry, and of anxiety. And it's been proven that it takes 17 seconds for a thought to attract its next thought. So when that's your first thought in the morning, within 17 seconds, you've created or attracted in the next thought. So when you're listening to those statistics, the thought then goes, well, how does that affect my family? How does it affect my community or my work? And then within another 17 seconds, then we're thinking perhaps, you know, how will that affect me financially? Or maybe, you know, relatives that are older. And before you know it, the brain is off on a negative thought pattern. And all energy wants to grow and be more than it is. So it's really important to stop that thought within the first 17 seconds. How I do that is with the Om. It's what works for me. And it's just to stop the thought. But it doesn't have to be an Om. It can be, and this is sort of a mini secret within the emotional body, within the stress secret, is song, the sound of your song. So you just hum a song, take yourself out of that particular flow of energy, however, in whatever way is right for you. They say that the average person has 80,000 thoughts in the day, that 80% of those are negative, that 95% of them are repetitive, and that 95% of them are either in the past or in the future. So it leaves a very small percentage for the average person to create positive thought within the present moment. And the present moment is the only place where we have any power to create. What I would say with regard to this also, it takes practice. But when you have it, again, take your awareness. Awareness is everything. So don't be the person that spreads the virus of fear to others. So imagine you listen to your news and then you come into your family in your big tank of stress and you roll over everybody with your statistics and your worry and your anxiety. And then they go off and carry that to somebody else, or you go into your workplace or your work environment. When we offload, see, it's much easier to send out pain than to feel your own. But when we offload, we have no idea of how those around us are capable of what their level is of handling stress and our stress. So where possible, don't spread that particular virus. Now, again, then there are remedies. There are great stress remedies. And the first one that will always come to mind is magnesium. I think through this presentation, you're going to hear magnesium many, many times. 375 milligrams is the recommended amount. And it helps you, it helps you sleep. It helps the body produce that melatonin in the system that allows that calm, relaxed sleep. It's great for the muscle pain of tension, for when that tension gets into the musculature of the body. And it protects the nervous system. Again, be complex because you're building your nervous system. It's like putting in the food for your nervous system, the medicine that will help it to become strong and have a resistance to the energies that are around us. Omega-3 is probably one of the most important things for the nervous system because it feeds the brain. The EPA and the DHA and omega-3 are important for brain flexibility and for you to be able to switch those thoughts, to realign, build new thought patterns in the body. Omega-3 is exceptionally important. If somebody comes in to store and they are highly stressed, because these things, the magnesium and the B complex, they take a bit of time. But if somebody is stressed in the moment and needs something now, then my preference always is the herb passiflora. That's passion flower. And it has an almost instant calming effect. And it's usually coupled with a Vena sativa that comes from oats. And that traditionally, again, it has a very soft calming effect on the body. A very easy remedy that can help somebody start off on their path of dealing with their stress. And again, if there's a lot of mental arguments and mental torture going on, when your body and your mind is not giving you peace, then the amino acid L-theanine is most beneficial. Massage, acupuncture, reflexology, all of these therapies are so important when the body is under stress. There is no more beautiful way of healing stress than with touch. It's probably the most underrated, and it affects, we're sentient beings and we have that physical touch. It can calm and soothe, and we can absorb nearly by osmosis the peace from the treatment. They say that laughter is the best medicine, and it is. There's many, many studies around and laughter yoga and many, many great things on laughter. But even a smile can change a mood. And again, it's been proven that when we smile, we activate the happy hormone in the body. Even if we don't feel the smile, the actual physical thing of smiling, we're activating the happy hormone. And the most amazing thing about a smile, it again is one of the mini secrets. The amazing thing about a smile is that when you smile, the other smiles back. So when we smile, we're being part of the solution, because that person more than likely will pass on that smile. And then you're having a positive impact on your community. So on the number 2, it's emotional body. It's watch the thoughts, change the thought, and remember to smile. And now we're moving around into mental body. Number 3, the mental body. And the secret of the mental body is the stomach. Now that might sound a bit odd, putting the stomach in the mental body. Yet, to use current terminology, there is a very special relationship between the stomach and the mind, the stomach and the brain. And the gut is now, would be recognized as the second brain. And there's actually more nerve endings in the gut than there is in the brain. So the best way I can explain this is, if imagine if you hear bad news. You hear it in your head, but it's your stomach that turns. And then if you know from in the energetics of the body, we have antennae that go out from the gut and they go out through the aura and they feel around. And then they feed that information back into your gut. gut feeling. And then that information then is sent up to the brain. So the gut knows before the brain gets a chance to know or to understand. So you can imagine how important it is to have good gut health. On a psychological thing, it's really about with the gut, it's can we digest what's going on in our lives? You know, can we break down what's happening and digest and eliminate when we have gut issues? And the most important thing is good gut flora. Your gut, that's why fermented foods, you know, like kefir and sauerkraut and all of these are so important, because they could put the good gut flora into the body. But also taking a probiotic is really, really important for your immune system. It's so important that it now is best practice that if a baby is born through cesarean section, if it doesn't get a chance to pass through the mother's birth canal where it picks up vital immune fighters, it's best practice to give that babe probiotic from birth to help its gut flora to get working immediately and preventing then gut issues like sensitivities and allergies moving into the future. So probiotic is so important. There's also major research going on with probiotics and work with prevention of Alzheimer's and dementia. So again, that gut-brain connection. But primarily, it's connected with the immune system. The gut in all of this presentation, good gut health is the most important thing for a healthy immune system. So the gut really does know. The next one then in the gut health would be a thing called beta-glucan. And these are really great little gems that work on the body's innate immune system. And again, it's in a lot of Scandinavian countries, they'll put beta-glucans into baby's milk that are bottle fed, again, to enhance that immune system. And the great thing about the beta-glucan is it doesn't interfere when somebody has autoimmune issues going on, because you have to be really careful then with remedies that you would be given. Glutamine is the thing that protects the gut. So, you know, when we talk about we have leaky gut, energetically, that's where foods travel through the body and go where they shouldn't be and create inflammation. It's also about our boundaries and how we protect our gut. So glutamine is the remedy for leaky gut. Digestive enzymes, when you can't break down things, when certain foods the body won't process properly. It's really important to have enough fiber in your diet, because if the body cannot eliminate, if there's a constipation issue and the body is reabsorbing poisons and toxins into the system, that's going to have a huge detrimental effect on the body's immune system, on its ability to act and react quickly. And you can't speak about the gut without speaking about diet. And the most important thing for good immune health, where diet is concerned, is simply to eat the rainbow. All the colours of the rainbow, but paying particular intention into the purple and the blue foods, because they are nutrient rich and antioxidant, and that has a huge effect on our immune system. Sugar is one of the hardest things on the body's immune system. Again, if you're speaking about gut health, the first thing the first no is sugar. They say that 75 grams of glucose, which is very little, and 100 grams of other sugars, you know, like the white rice and the white bread, and can deplete your immune system for up to 4 to 5 hours. They're what's called empty calories, and that means that it takes more of your body's nutrients to eliminate them out of the body. And particularly with sugar, it's magnesium and zinc, and they're directly connected with the immune system. So when you enter that roller coaster of high and low blood sugar, all body systems suffer, not just the pancreas and spleen, because the body has to prioritize, and it will prioritize that balance, however it does it, but very often to the detriment of other body systems. You can't also speak about the gut without talking about how important hydration is. And that is a big thing within our body's immune system. Most of us go around dehydrated all of the time. The brain's 73% water. So even 2% decrease in that can have an effect on concentration, on focus, and within other body systems, with directly affecting our body's immune system. So it's really important to have at least 2 liters of water in the day. Dehydration is a cause of many, many imbalances. The big message out of number 3, the mental body and the gut, is that where possible, never eat your meals while listening to the news or having an argument. Never prepare food when you're in a bad mood, when you're angry or hurt or wounded, because that vibration goes into the food that we're about to eat or you're about to eat. But when you're listening and eating, you're literally digesting that fear. And what happens is that it bypasses lots of the body's natural barriers and goes right into the gut. So it's just gone right in with the food. And then, like all energies, it wants to be more and multiply. So it goes off and does whatever damage it can do. So a really simple thing is to just traditionally, in Ireland, we would not have devices or TV or anything going on when we were the meal was considered sacred. And like most things in tradition, it was there for a reason. So that's the number 3. We're now into the causal body. And the causal body is number 4. And number 4 is all about nature, 4 square on the earth. And when the secret of number 4 is the seasons. And when we're looking at immunity, seasons are really, really important, because we have certain things happen within different seasons. Traditionally in Ireland, we had the idea of making a spring tonic, where you would go out and gather fresh nettles and other herbs to tonify the system, to help it to move into springtime. Springtime is when a lot of illness happens, when the immune system can be particularly depleted. It's when you think of that growth comes in the earth, and our bodies want that to move with that growth also. But if we don't have enough life force energy, then the body will take it from other systems. And then we end up with low immunity, and we pick up a lot of diseases and colds, and a lot of people leave the planet in springtime. They survive the winter in hibernation, but don't step out into the new year. So season's very important. And we think of, in summer, it's all about, hay fever and hay fever symptoms. And again, things like quercetin and vitamin B5 can be so beneficial, and the beta-glucan also, to prevent the symptoms of hay fever. But the most important thing when you're looking at your causal, when you're looking at your seasons, is the important thing is to get out ahead of it. So you have to know and be thinking about the seasons. As we're going into wintertime, it's all about, the cold season. But also it's very relevant for inflammatory conditions like arthritic and rheumatic pain that don't do well in the cold. So you can take the remedies that assist these things by awareness and self-knowledge and getting out ahead. But it's not just the seasons of Mother Nature, it's the seasons within us. And this can be even more interesting, because how often do we get the same ailment, the same imbalance, the same disease at the same time every year? And that's the seasons within us. And when we understand that, again, we can get out ahead of it. Probably, if you're thinking of that, you get, maybe chest and lung issues every March. Well, then you can go and take the ivy thyme and the plantago and things and garlic and things that will help to build up that particular area, because it's your season. And your self-awareness and self-knowledge will let you get out ahead of it and therefore prevent as much as possible. One of the biggest season issues that most people are aware of is seasonal affective disorder. And the remedies are so good for that. If we can, before that darkness comes in, if we build up the body with the remedies that help support that particular issue. So again, on number 4, on the causal, know yourself, connect with Mother Earth and the seasons, and connect with the seasons within yourself. And then we move to number 5 on the Wheel of Life. And if you notice that a lot of these in the numerology and the Wheel of Life, they're all interconnected. There's a synergy and a connection, and each one feeds into the other, as does our body organs. So the higher causal is your genetic coding. It's what you come in with. And the secret for higher causal is susceptibility. So again, it's really important with susceptibility. The big message is get out ahead of it. But in order to get out ahead of it, you have to know what it is. So it's really good to look into your family lineage and see what particular imbalances or diseases travel in your family line. And then you can do something about that by paying particular attention to the immunity that's within that system. In my family, on my mom's side, there's a big tradition of heart disease. And on my dad's, there's chest and lung issues. So I will always pay particular attention to my immunity within those areas. And I take the nutrients that support and nourish both of those, because that's my lineage. The thing that the old adage that prevention is better than cure is so important for the causal and the higher causal. It's the getting out ahead of it. So if you think of your family lines and your family traits, what travels in your family? Could it be particular types of arthritis or osteoporosis? If your mom had osteoporosis, there's a very good chance that you will also, or you have a high susceptibility, because this is the immune system secret for this. Heart and blood pressure, chest and lung. Certain types of cancer travel in family lines. Diabetes, mental illness, again, can travel in the family lines. Things like Alzheimer's and dementia, again, particular families have a particular bent to that. So it's all about awareness, self-awareness, and then you can target your immunity to the higher causal. It's a bit like on the number 5 on the Wheel of Life, it's like your coding is a little bit like your health karma. And I know, like Master Shashi often says, you know, that the stars that you're born with also can give you particular susceptibility for certain imbalances or diseases. So self-awareness, a huge thing with the higher causal. Now we're on to number 6. Number 6 is all about responsibility and acquired wisdom. And the secret to number 6 is stagnation. So that's when you look at it, and number 6 is about responsibility, then it's about movement. And it's so important. Exercise and fresh air for our immune systems can't be overstated. But we live in a time where we have a much more sedentary lifestyle. So many of us work in offices, kids sit in classrooms all day. So exercise has to now become a conscious choice, rather than in the past, a lot of physical activity, it would have happened naturally. So we tend to fall into 2 brackets. We have the people who do very little exercise, and then sometimes the people who over-exercise. And both of these have a very detrimental effect on the immune system. If you think of the athletes, you know, particularly the long distance runners, that they age very quickly. And that's because of the low level of antioxidant activity, because of the extreme training. So again, when we're talking about immunity, it's everything in balance. It's the most important aspect. One of my aha moments, one of my gems, was when Master Shashi spoke about your protection cells going to sleep. And when they go to sleep, other more sinister cells can come in and take their place or work around them or cover them up. And when protection cells go to sleep, that's stagnation. That's what that's about. So it's not just about physical movement, it's about mental movement, awareness, flexibility. Flexibility of mind is as important with regard to the immune system as flexibility within the body. Rumi said, that there is a voice that has no sound, and listen. And that's really what the wisdom part of this number 6, the wisdom, acquired wisdom. When we're not flexible in mind, things like guilt and shame can hold us in a fixed place. And and that need to hold and to have your armor around you has a huge, drains your energy on so many levels, and it has a huge effect on the body's immune system. So the big thing for the number 6, for the responsibility and acquired wisdom, is to love yourself. Master Tashi's speaking about it all the time now. And it's the greatest gift that you can give your immune system. That's your wisdom. I use affirmation a lot with, I studied with Robert Holden, and we did the Happiness Project together. And at that time, the power of affirmation became very apparent to me. So when I'm trying to create that flexibility of mind and allowing energies to flow and move through the mind, I will use things like, my main one every day is I love life and life loves me. And when you think of that, that allows flow to come. The other one is I'm happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And that's all around. It's not just, it's happiness in all aspects of life. And it's not just material wealth, it's wealth with friendships and connections and environment. And the wisdom is like where you when you're affirming that you're wise, it's that you'll pick up and you'll gain from each interaction that you have in life. So affirming to the body is really important for the immune system. We have a great tradition in Ireland, and it's a lovely one. Of we greet each other and we say, "How are you?" Unfortunately, what most people reply to that is, "I'm not too bad." So you can imagine energetically what that does to the cells of the body. I'm not too bad. You're not saying you're healthy or happy. You're not saying you have energy. You're not saying you're vibrant. You're not saying you're alive. You're really affirming over and over again, "I'm not too bad." And that has a huge effect on the energy of our cells and the wisdom within our cells. And that affects our immune system. So now we move on to number 7. And 7, if you know it, is always, it never, its secret is it's about sensitivity, and its secret is sensitivity. Now it links up very much with the gut, because if we are sensitive to things like particularly say celiac disease, if we can't digest gluten, that can have a major draining effect on the vitamins and minerals within the body. So when number 7 is sensitivity, we're looking at what are we sensitive to? And again, when that's going on within the system, it can be, there are remedies that we can take once we have awareness. In Ireland, we have a lot of people who are dairy intolerant, and that sensitivity can show up in mucus production, chest and lung issues. And again, it's very relevant to COVID and what's happening now. So if you are in that bracket and you have a lot of chest and lung stuff going on, or the body's producing a lot of mucus, then consider your dairy intake. We also are becoming very sensitive to screen time, this blue light phenomena where we have blue light fatigue and our immune system is being threatened by too much screen time. A lot of us are sensitive to the cold and to the heat, and it takes up a lot of our body's natural store of vitamins and minerals to try and rebalance when we're not good in a particular temperature. I believe that we're all sensitive to processed foods, and we're all sensitive to high sugar foods. And that it can, again, it's like this thing of how much of what I eat, how much of my valuable store of nutrients do I have to use to eliminate that toxin out of the body. But we're sentient beings also, and we can be sensitive to our environment. Sensitivity works on, and that's the secret of the number 7. It can come in so many subtle ways. And the sensitivity to our environment particularly affects our mental body. So my best awareness on that is maybe around 1994, myself and my aunt we were attending a course in Cork, and we decided to treat ourselves and go into a beautiful hotel, which it was, very opulent in every way. But when we went into the rooms to sleep, I found that I couldn't settle in the room. And through the night, I had aches and pains in my body, I had tension in the back of my neck, my stomach felt sick, and I ended up with a massive headache. And then the next morning, on chatting with my auntie, I found that she had quite similar feelings through the night. So we're sensitive. So during the break at the course, I got chatting to a lovely lady, and she was asking me where I was staying. And I said about the hotel, and she said, "Oh, it's so gorgeous." So they did such an amazing job, and that you would never think that that was a residential mental health facility before it was a hotel, an asylum. So they spent millions on it. They painted it, they decorated it in the most opulent way. But the vibration of the pain stayed within the walls. And because we are sentient beings, we could pick it up back to the solar plexus and the antenna. Robert Beasley is a very famous philosopher, and his big thing was, he said that every hospital should be knocked down and rebuilt every 5 years, because the illness stayed within the walls of the building, within the ether of the building. And it got me thinking then about what about, the people who are going into intensive care now with COVID. How much of that energy and that fear that's in that environment affects the outcome. And also for the doctors and nurses and staff that work in that environment. How much is that environment impacting their immunity and health and well-being? So this is where our mindfulness and meditation is so important, because it builds that strength, that barrier, that protection to all of these things that are going on around us and within our environment. I'm attending David Ford's breathing class, and I find it to be so beneficial for bringing you into center and bringing in your different body systems. And one of my aha moments with David is that when you can control your breath, no one can take your peace. Beautiful knowing, beautiful wisdom. So with the number 7, it's never simple. Often our sensitivities are hidden. And it's about, again, knowing the self and self-awareness that we can come to build our immunity with our number 7. Now we're almost finished our wheel of life. And we come to number 8, and number 8 is about extremes. If you think of the figure 8, it goes out and then comes back to center. And traditionally, herbalism, homeopathy, shamanic practice, healing was all that there was. And then came the Industrial Revolution and the medical revolution. And we thought that there was a pill for every ill. And a lot of the traditional remedies got lost. But both of those are extreme. And it's written that science will prove what the mystics always knew when the time is right. And that's what's happening now. So the secret to that center point, coming into center point for immunity, I've decided to work with the supplements and the remedies. Some of them from the allopathic tradition and some of them from the naturopathic tradition. So when you're looking at your immunity, it's about what's right for me in this moment in time. So this might be, I'm just going to give a quick run through of the supplements that are relevant for the times that we find ourselves now. So the first one that comes to mind is vitamin D. And vitamin D has got such, thank heaven, that energy is out there and people understand. It was found that vitamin D has a huge benefit for COVID. And particularly when people had extreme COVID, they were all found to be very low in vitamin D. And if you think of when COVID came to Ireland first, we were just coming out of winter and we can't produce vitamin D ourselves. We have to get it from the sunshine. So vitamin D as a supplement is essential in these times. They, you know, even in people in very hot countries can be very low in vitamin D because we're afraid of skin cancer. And so we cover up or we put on factors so the sun's rays cannot penetrate the skin and create the vitamin D. They say that it can reduce colds and flus by up to 70%. So a huge influence. Vitamin C, traditionally, really important for preventative, but it's even more important if you have COVID because it can decrease the severity of symptoms amazingly. So you're talking about 1 gram of vitamin C every couple of hours. Remember that smoking kills your vitamin C in the body, that when we cook vegetables or when we boil, we kill the vitamin C within them. So raw vegetables and raw fruit as much as possible when you're looking for vitamin C. Zinc is the sister of vitamin C. So whatever vitamin C does on the vitamin end, zinc does on the mineral end. And it's so, so important for immunity and resistance, and one that can get depleted very quickly. The beta-glucan, again, that's the really important to prevent infection, but also to fight infection. It enhances your natural immune system. My favorite one, and the one that my staff and I have used, is Echinacea. It's not so well known, but Echinacea is an amazing herb. And Alfred Vogel was in the 1950s, was a man, a gifted soul. And he traveled the earth looking for remedies and healing potions. And he found himself with the Sioux Nation in North America. And he and the chief Ben Black Elk became great friends. And they became such friends that Black Elk gave to him the seed of the Echinacea plant. And it was the greatest gift that chief could give, or one chief could give to another chief. And Echinacea is proven antiviral. And it's always been used. There was lots of research done on it with the SARS virus. And it's manufactured now in Switzerland, in A. Vogel. And they have many, many papers of the efficacy of Echinacea with regard to COVID, and also when people actually have the condition, how it can assist and heal. Colloidal silver, another big traditional remedy for the immune system and resistance, and is antiviral. So traditionally, again, the little ones going to school, you'd put a spray of colloidal silver into their mouth to stop them picking up the different viruses. In the Middle Ages, when the plague came and it killed millions in its wake, and they found that the aristocracy didn't get sick. Now, there's obviously the thing that they were probably better fed, etc. But the big thing was that they ate with silver cutlery. So when they were putting the silver into their mouth, minute particles of that silver was going into the body system and creating an immunity. And that's interestingly where the term born with a silver spoon in your mouth comes from, because you survive because of the silver.
Christine?
Yes?
Let's say the silver.
Excellent. Excellent. Beautiful. Beautiful.
That's the silver glass.
Beautiful synchronicity. Yes.
Yeah. So silver and copper.
Yes.
Yeah, speak. You're doing very well. You are batting very nicely. You've done your double century. Now you are heading for triple.
Excellent. So thank you, Master Shash.
You are a good soul.
Thank you.
She's a good soul. Yeah.
Sea buckthorn. This isn't such a well-known plant. And sea buckthorn traditionally is all about dryness in the body. So things like dry skin, dry eyes, that's what it's normally used for. But it coats and protects the mucous membranes of the body. Now, COVID attacks the respiratory system, and the lung is one big mucous membrane. So by taking sea buckthorn, you're coating and protecting and nurturing that area. Now, it takes about 2 months for sea buckthorn to build up in the body, but it's very beneficial where COVID is concerned. When the body is overproducing mucus, and if you think of COVID, what happens is the mucus is thick and the body can't expel it. So there are two amazing herbs. One is plantago and the other one is ivy thyme. And the best way to understand these is plantago goes above the neck, so mucus in sinuses within the ears and within the whole sinus system. And ivy thyme goes into the chest and lung. And both those herbs clean and tone the chest and lung area. So if you have susceptibility, back to your higher causal, if you have susceptibility in that area, taking ivy thyme and plantago can have huge benefit. And particularly again, when this COVID pandemic is here. Again, magnesium, essential. I think every person on the planet needs to be taking magnesium. It reduces stress, and when people have high stress, they produce this stress hormone called cortisol. And cortisol drains magnesium out of the body. B complex, again, to support the nervous system. B6 is particularly important within that because it helps the body produce serotonin and melatonin and GABA, those really good calming influence on the body. The adrenals need B5 and B6. And when we are suffering from adrenal fatigue, that's when the body is overwhelmed with stress. That really depletes the immune system. Selenium has a big effect on the body's immune system. And they use selenium in China to work with, it was Ebola type viruses that they were studying, and they were using the effect of selenium to kill those cells. So again, one that we don't often think about. Low iron and low zinc leave the body's immune system very deficient. And then garlic. Again, a most underrated herb because it is naturally antibacterial and antiviral. And again, it's great for cleaning the mucus out of the body. So these are kind of like broad strokes. And again, remembering that we're all individual. So you have to look at each person to see where their immunity might need to be tweaked or rebalanced. I have a lovely thing that called Zell Oxygen Immune that I give when people are really low, because sometimes, and there's a word of caution here, that more doesn't mean better. So you can overtake your vitamin D, and if you do, that can cause very severe symptoms within the body. So it can cause extreme lethargy. It can cause, like when you wake up in the morning, like that your joints won't work, that you're older than your years with too much vitamin D. Also, if somebody's very weak, you can't overload them with high strength nutrients because the body isn't able to digest, isn't able to break down. So depending on what level of body life force strength is within the person, then you choose your remedy. So the Zell Oxygen, I really love it because it delivers the vitamin right into the cell. The body has very little work to do. And for that reason, it's one of my favorites. Now we have gone right round the wheel of life and we've come to our number 9. And the number 9 is really, I suppose, like saving the best for last. And there are many secrets, immune system secrets within the number 9. And it is about bringing it back to source, back back to God. And the biggest secret of the number 9 is surrender. And following closely behind that is things like safety and security and stillness and silence. All have a huge effect on our immune system. And this is where our japa and our meditation and our mindfulness and our breathing all come into. It's like we go the full circle of life, and everything that I've spoken about comes together. There's a synergistic connection when...
Christine,
Okay, thank you. So my understanding of the wheel of life is that all things come together with the 9. And the words that I was given, the words that were handed down, was bringing it back to source. And that, as Master Shashi has just spoken about, you could say as the soul leaves the body and goes back to Surya, goes back to source. But it's more than that. It's an accumulation of everything that we are and everything that we've been. It's connected mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and energetically. It's connected with the causal, about how we are connected with our Mother Nature. It's connected with the higher causal and our lineage and our health karma, particularly with this presentation. It's connected with our responsibility, number 6, and our acquired wisdom. Did we hear the lessons? Did we understand, and did we move from that place? It's connected with the secrets of the 7 and our sensitivities in life and how we can protect and nurture ourselves. It's connected with the 8, particularly because we do go in extremes. It's important that the soul goes to extremes to experience. It's more important that it comes back to center. And after all the life experiences, then we come to number 9, and it holds the biggest gifts. And the first gift that it holds is surrender. I had a lovely teacher, Jaya Moran, and she worked with the fairy realm and beautiful, beautiful soul and nature realm. And her big thing was it takes a great soul to surrender to all that's noble and true within the self. And what I understood by that is, and for me, Mother Teresa said it also, is she would never say what she was against. She would never fight against anything, because she had that understanding that what you fight against, what you give energy to, simply grows. And she said, speak to me what I'm for. So for me, the number 9 and bringing it back to source is authenticity and sovereignty. It's bringing it home. What am I for? What am I about? What has this life circle been about? And within that then comes, where our immune system is concerned, safety, security, and then stillness and silence. So you can imagine how the body's going to feel, and the immune system is going to feel if you're vulnerable, either mentally, financially, physically. It's going to impact all body systems. And then this is where the faith and the meditation and the wisdom and the knowing come into play, when those times come. And when we get to the number 9, one of the big wisdoms is, and this again is into the surrender, sometimes we have to accept the unacceptable. Sometimes we have to surrender to what we can't control. And COVID brings this out beautifully. And when we do give up the fight, we realize that we control nothing. That source takes care of that. And our only thing is how we react. That's where our power is, when we're still and when we're present. How can I react to whatever it is that's going on around me? Can I be the peace within the chaos? And then comes acceptance. And when acceptance comes, when you surrender to that, acceptance comes. And then when acceptance comes, forgiveness can come. Because when we're fighting We can't forgive. We have to be right. We have to be on the side of right and righteous. But when we surrender and when that understanding comes, then forgiveness comes. First for self, and then an understanding for others also. When we get that inner silence, when silence comes, and that's what the mantra brings, then we find our own answers. The things that we've always known. That's a huge strength. When you go into that still place, into that silent place, and you connect with your soul and find your answers, there is no more powerful place to live. And it has a huge effect on our immune system in all our bodies. We all know people that have survived amazing things through the power of prayer. And even when it's distant prayer and distant healing. And that's because the soul knows. And when an energy travels in a heartbeat, so when we surrender and when we accept, that leaves us open to receive all the good that this world has to offer. And there's so many gifts and prayers that have gone unreceived because we can't surrender. Bring it home, bring it back to source. Master Shashi always says, look within. You know, when we're out, and it's happening so much now because our fuses have got a little bit short and we're wanting to blame somebody for this place that the world has come to. And, you know, Master Shashi always says, you know, look to self. My language in that is bring it home. You know, what is this saying about me? Because the soul knows, and the soul will always accept, and that allows the healings to happen. So when we think of the number 9 and bringing it home, my understanding is that where healing is concerned, that there's so much that we have to remember and to relearn. And love, and faith, and hope. And that to me is love and faith and hope in the inherent goodness of humanity. And love and faith and hope that no matter how chaotic it might seem, the knowing that Source has a plan, that there is a plan there. So this concludes my presentation. To me, all of life is held within that wheel. Each segment that we've looked at could actually be a workshop within itself. But it's never been more important to be aware of immunity and to take our power back so that we're not sleepwalking into a world of fear and constraint that is being dictated to by people who are working out of a vibration of fear. And that's really what the mantra does. It brings us home to the self, where we can make, with awareness then, we can make empowered choices for how to make this particular time flow with a little bit more grace and ease. So for me, when I was looking at this, it's really, and particularly when we do the full circle. And remember, when you do the full circle, you start all over again on right into another layer of the physical. But for me, it's been all about love. It actually is the answer to all the numbers. And it's alive within the number 9. Because love is allowing, the art of allowing. And that's your spiritual immunity. You trust and you allow. And love enhances your mental and spiritual and emotional immunity. And love embraces your physical and causal immunity. That's our touch and our hug and our connection to our humanity. So in the end, it's really all about love. Well, I hope you have enjoyed and got the gem that will help in some way to enhance this moment in time. Namaste, everyone. Thank you.